next session is on HEP Growing Together, Tools of the Field. And with me is Ellen Cushing with AIR and Ved Price with Alliance for Higher Education in Prison, and Dr. Rob Scott, Cornell Prison Education Program. And what we're going to do is allow each of them some time to do a brief presentation, say who they are more intimately, and then give some information. And then I will go into questions. We'll do what we did the last session. We'll open it up for you all, so start taking your notes, and we'll get started.
That's me then? All right. So I'm going to time myself. When we talked in preparation style, we talked about doing 10 or 12 minutes, so I've timed it. Try to be respectful to my co-presenters. Good to be with you guys, and thank you to Ascendium for bringing us together like this today. I woke up this morning in Montgomery. I was thinking, how could I frame the beginning of this talk that would give a little bit of a nod to the history of this place, the bus boycotts, Rosa Parks. People know what the citizenship schools were. Anyone heard of the citizenship schools? Part of the history of the civil rights movement. Also the freedom schools. You know, I often think, and I've never said this out loud, it's interesting to say it today, that I would be happy if we thought of the HEP movement, or whatever this is, as sort of a grandchild of the struggle for civil rights and the use of education to mobilize people. So specifically, I'm going to use a term that is used. We got people from Tennessee here. The Highlander Institute. Anyone know that stuff? Yeah, all right. Shout out to Montego, Tennessee. And Miles Horton, who used the term the long haul. The long haul means the education, the Pell Grant to the graduation stage ain't it. And the tool for the field that I'm here to share with you has to do with trying to really be in it for the long haul for our students. And for better or worse, I've decided I've got 20 slides I'm going to get through really quickly, so I might be asking Tyler, my good friend at the back, to just advance me one, because this thing is going to be a little bit unresponsive. That's me, Rob Scott. Okay, next one. Thank you, Tyler. Okay, this is a happy portrait of the community that was present at the Cornell Prison Education Program the year before I got there. It says 2012, first graduating cohort. I've often thought of the first cohort phenomenon with these programs coming soon to a prison near you as we roll out tons of new prison education programs under Pell. There's a kind of magic with the first cohort. I'm not speaking sarcastically here. There is great hope for this first group to nucleate the spirit of the program as it continues to grow. And there is an implied commitment of the colleges, explicit or implicit, that we're going to stick with you, that this isn't just, as I said, Pell to the graduation stage. We speak all the time about things like what happens in reentry, recidivism, what have you, or are bombarded with the need to talk about those things. And we have hope. So this group, 2/3 of the folks in this picture had effective life sentences. So what do we do about that? What's going to happen here? How are we going to be in it for the long haul? All right, so I've decided to give you, and I'm going to ask for some help from the back, because it's going to go quickly, to look at this map I made. I wanted to create a visual representation for you of why this is challenging for higher education and prison programs. Maybe people have thought of this. You probably have an anecdotal sense of this. Those 15 colorful dots on the map in Auburn, New York, we're talking about Auburn Penitentiary here, hour north of Cornell University, you see us on the map, is where those 15 people were in that picture. Let's see if I can do it. The next year, 6 of those people have moved elsewhere, and 1 person has tragically passed away. So already the band's breaking up. I should say also, the entire staff quit this year. Also, maybe coming to a HEP program near you sometime soon, because this happens. There's turnover. Turnover happens. If you could take me to slowly just up to 2017. 2017 is the year that there's nobody left from that original cohort at the prisons served by Cornell. And you can see this zigzag crossing pattern of people being transferred across the state non-consensually by the Department of Corrections. This is what everyone in this room knows this. That's what happens in prison. And so the question is, okay, I think the underlying question, I probably shouldn't say it this way, but for me, the question of life, is how to make love last. But the question is really the way that Molly put it together for this whole thing is, how do we create systems that endure? So the Cornell Prison Education Program is here at this point, but the entire original staff is gone. The entire original cohort is gone. 2 of the 3 founding professors of this program no longer work with the program in 2017, but somehow there's still this thing called the Cornell Prison Education Program, and that promise to that first group, implicit or explicit, that we're in this with you for the long haul. So if you could just click through to 2024, that would be helpful. Thank you, Tyler. So this process continues, and what I would share now is, while this is happening, and you have to, I'm doing this as a proxy to other college and prison programs, while these friends and colleagues and students of ours are moving across the state, and in many cases out of the state, as some are released, almost 200 other graduates from our program. How are we going to be in it for the long haul with everybody? So, tools of the field. Let's see if I can do it, because this only should be one at a time now. We created something called the EJT, the Education Justice Tracker, semi-stolen from the Education Justice Project. I see Lee in the room, but I was in the Education Justice Project, so I feel like I have a little room to do that. But the idea is that in the interest of justice, in the interest of our students, needing to use what is available to keep track of where our students are in the face of an ultimately hostile system that by design is dispersing a group that was a community and that had a center. So I am going to give you a quick overview of that and be in this for a conversation with you. This is the front page you would see if you went to get a account at the Education Justice Tracker and were interested in figuring out where your students are even beyond the time that they are in a prison you work at. Creating a login, incidentally, takes less time than creating a Gmail account. And then the first thing you would see is put in the ID numbers of your students. And already now we can feel the kind of dark energy of the prison system coming in, because these are prison ID numbers. Just to be clear about that. And I would say, probably for another day, but there's a longer conversation here about the problem of having these prison lookup pages while the department simultaneously declines to give us the type of information I'm about to show you how to get. So we're not allowed to find where our community is, but all this kind of stuff is put out publicly and sometimes permanently on the internet. So what we're doing is we're asking users, if you're interested in knowing where your students are, your alumni are, to get your student ID numbers, checking the time, yep, and enter them. This takes less time than it takes to enter the grades into the faculty center at our university. So again, not a big time commitment. I stress that because we're trying to get people to start doing this. It's going to have big impacts for your students. This is the dark thing. So this is, this is what every state of the 50 states and the FBOP all have prison lookup sites of some sort. And the mess of language is right on full display here in New York, where we're using incarcerated individual as a phrase, and then right above it, they keep the word offender at all times, and also at the bottom, a youthful offender. So it's looking up incarcerated people. All right, this is what this is. This is criminal justice data. Why are we going to this site? Because this is an automator that is going to look up your students' information, not in the interest of criminalizing them, not in the interest of what this site is designed to do, but in the interest of figuring out how to stay in touch with them and how to be aware of their parole outcomes as those evolve over time. And so what gets shot out when you put in a person's student ID number is this list of data points that the state provides. All the states do it differently. If you use our EJT program to do this, you get something that looks like this. It's a giant array of data. I don't know if you can see, but at the top it says like 890 some records / 1.6 seconds. So that means in 1 second we managed to get the entire permanent group of all the alumni of our program data for this particular moment of when this lookup was done is about a week ago. The list goes down several pages and to the right several pages as well because of the number of data points that are there. How would anyone have the time to use this? We just went over how short on energy and personnel higher education and prison programs are. So what you want to do, and this is what we've done with this program, this is what our Ascendium project is take the entire data set and per student compare the facility that folks were at, say last week, to the facility they were at this week, and don't show us the static data, don't show us people that haven't moved, show us who's moved. And so when you do that, you get something that looks more like this. And this actually still looks like a lot of data, but look at this. If I put in these lines, each line separates a week worth of data. So the top 3 lines, you can actually see in the green column that says timestamp, that was November 1st, November 2nd data that we got. And again, I've redacted everyone's information. Anyone looking for, do I know one of these guys? No, you don't, because it's all redacted. But this is 3 real students of ours that moved from facility A to facility B. So in the yellow column to the right there, you see previous facility, and then the green column, you see current facility. Then below that, you see 5 more with date stamps around October 28th and then around October 21st. So each week, we run a report. Or actually, we don't run it. The tool runs the report and tells us where our students have moved in the correctional system. This is in the prison system, so this is facility to facility. It also gives us updates through a second protocol about their parole updates, so that someone that might have graduated 2012 from Cornell but is now at a non-Cornell correctional facility but is getting parole outcomes evolving, we can actually be in touch when it becomes relevant for us to step back in and say, you're still part of our community, we're still here with you. And so that's the spirit of this work, is that we are driven by intention. Okay, we are in a stance of unshakable commitment to our students. And bad days like the ones we've had this week, total abolition of the College of Education, we're still going to be here. People have been kind of using that as a threat. I think it's really important to say, this struggle wasn't about getting Pell Grants. Okay, so, but how do the actual programs get the information? Does it actually look like this? This still is like, for people that don't really like spreadsheets and whatnot, unpleasant. So, final thing, and not many people have taken me up on this, we've developed a way to do automatic alerts to emails. This is actually a screen grab of an email. I can't make this any easier, okay? You literally sign up for something that's easier than a Gmail account, put your students' numbers in, and it's reformatted into the exact information you need to try to be helpful to your students. So look at what we have here, because what we've done now is we've integrated in some of the stuff from the college, properly branding them as students, not any of that other vocabulary. And we have at the bottom the DOC info. So at the top you see, again, redacted. This isn't even even the blurred photo. It's not who the person is. You're not going to figure out who this is. This is a student that was with us at Auburn, but ended up at Wallkill. You can see kind of the 4th bullet point under the academic record. They received an associate's degree from us. They have plenty of college credits. Now below you see, we've just found out, highlighted up above, they're at Wallkill. They're at a different facility in the DOC. They've got 5 more years in prison. This email is from 2023. They've got until 2028. Wallkill has a bachelor's degree granting program from NYU. Important. Look what else you see. Their county of origin is Kings County. That's Brooklyn. That's near NYU. This is a really, really good opportunity for the person's higher education advancement, and we're in a position now where we can swiftly start acting to make sure that they have continuity of community as they go to the next place. They can be part of the academic community immediately through oftentimes just a quick phone call over to NYU, or as Keisha back here, we just write the other college, Rochester, whoever, the other colleges that are around at the facilities where our alumni end up, we're immediately on the phone. Okay, even if you don't have a degree you can offer them, can you bring them into the school building and make sure that they're connected to the people there? Or we even say, we know other students of ours that are there. We had an alumni organization at Sing Sing. It was a little disrupted by the pandemic, but I know they've had one meeting since. Anyways, but this is the type of things that emerge in the long haul. I only have one slide left. I'm going to stop. So this is kind of just a review of where this is at. So this is a free program. Thank you, Ascendium. At the moment, we are trying to get people to adopt usage. The challenge is mainly getting people to show up after our 1 hour long, we've done 50 hour-long demonstrations and invitations to this. It takes a lot of follow-up to show up and say, okay, so you have to create a user ID, a password. That's actually it. And then put your students in there. That's it. So 18 programs are accounting for most of the usage of this so far. We're a year into this. We're tracking just under 10,000 students across the country. It works in all 50 states. And then just a quick fact pattern on what we think might be driving usage. Large or long-standing programs are more likely to find this use because of what you saw in New York. This is a big state, and people are moved between 42 facilities across the state right now. consortia and other multi-institution programs, because of what you hear me saying as well. If we're trying to have the backs of the other college and prison program students as they show up at our place, others can do that for us. And if we have the information, we can act quickly, so there aren't these gaps in which people lose the connection to the academic community. And then finally, large states. I think I actually do have one other thing here just to show. Yeah, so like Rhode Island isn't going to use this. It's just no reason. All their prisons are in one spot. I don't know if people know this. It's actually kind of curious. So they have 6 prisons. They're all within a square mile. So a transfer means going across the street. I'm pretty sure they can figure it out. Also, small programs. A great colleague of mine has 8 students and 6 staff. What a ratio. They're not losing track of their students. It's really cool. So good for them. But Texas could use this, and we've been talking with Texas. Some places have a facility that has more people in that one facility than the entire state of Rhode Island. But that is a challenge because, as I put on the way bottom here, small new programs without staff or partners don't see an immediate benefit when we share this with them. And that's why I say we have to look to the Pell Grant days ahead. And I've gone to 12 minutes. So thanks. Looking forward to conversation.
Thanks, Rob. We'll come back to you for questions. And so I want to go ahead and move to that.
Thank you. First, got to do an extra shout out to Molly. Everybody in here probably knows Molly, but like putting this together, just got to say, phenomenal job at like putting the field on your shoulders from a philanthropic side. If we could have like 3 more of you and like 3 more philanthropies, that'd be awesome. Let's see. So first, these lights are bright. If anybody doesn't have lived experience and you want to feel like you're taking a mug shot, just come stand right here. I'll talk about HEP in a second. Speaking of silver lining and like the election, just wanted to think about now that there's going to be a president that has a conviction, I'm wondering if there may be an opportunity for that person to think about this field and these people differently, maybe. Silver lining, just hope. So we've developed a resource at the Alliance, or am I supposed to give like a who I am?
Yes,
okay.
you are, and then that.
Okay. My name is Ved Price. I'm representing the Alliance for Higher Education in Prison. We are a convener in the field that is trying to keep some cohesiveness in the community, build cohesiveness, and work towards some collective goals as a whole and as a field. The resource I'm going to talk about today is HEP. It's the Resource Community for Higher Education in Prison. And we stood this up last November, right before our national conference on higher ed in prison. I would like to have a race with you, Rob, to see whose time to sign up for a platform is shorter. I think ours could beat yours. We'll test that later. So the resource, oh yeah, I guess I gotta do this thing right here. Cool. Hopefully this QR code works. So the Resource Community for Higher Ed in Prison is a platform that we put together because we talk a lot about accessibility for students, access to education, access to information, and I think that there could be more of an emphasis on access to information for practitioners in the field, as well as the general public. And I think as we try to shape dialogue and discussion and the narrative around the field, that we want to help socialize and normalize this work amongst the general public. And so making resources available to folks outside of this field is really important too, so people know, have an understanding of what's going on and what's out there. So this resource was really built for a couple of reasons. Rob, you're a great systems builder, and this resource is not as complex as the one that you
Pretty complex.
it's okay, yeah. But it's kind of a spin-off of the listserv, so I don't know how many folks in here are part of the Higher Ed in Prison listserv, but this is the kind of continuation of that, and Rob actually built the listserv back in 2010. So as the field formalized, I really wanted to see resources in a more centralized and structured and organized place so people could find them and access them. I think one thing we continuously talk about is community, and this is a platform that's open source. Anybody can upload anything on there in context. And so that's kind of what we've done is we've gotten a bunch of resources from around the field and put them on this platform. There's topics all the way from reentry, policy, research, you name it, it's on there, and it's going to continue to build out. So it's still in its early stages, but we see this as a place that that anybody can go to access things. I also selfishly really wanted to push the development of this forward because I get probably 100 emails a day of like, can you connect me to this? Or do you know where an MOU is? Or where's a staff handbook on higher ed in prison or for practitioners or professors? And I just can't answer that many emails a day. I try. Sorry for anybody out there who I haven't responded to your email yet. So this is a place where you can upload your resources, and I would encourage you to do that. I think I love the idea of convenings. I also love the idea of what can happen after a convening, and I'm all about like momentum and traction and keeping that. So it's not just like we saw each other in the hallway, we said what's up, and then I don't see you for another year, we don't talk for another year. So if I can give anybody homework, it would be to visit this platform and upload resources that you may have, because people in the field may need them, and especially as new programs are emerging and building, there's a lack of information. Folks do need to understand what does a staff handbook look like? What does an MOU look like? And so, I would encourage folks to go on here, and if you have any of that stuff, just upload it. You can also post stuff on here. You can go to the next slide, please. Or look at me. There we go. Sorry. So another element to the platform is you can actually like post stuff too. So you can upload resources, in PDF form, but you can also post things like a job if you're interested in hiring for folks, or you can just post something like a graduation. And we're continuing to try to build out features that mirror other social media platforms, so you can like stuff, you can share stuff. So you can kind of see that there. You can upload pictures, personal stuff, wins, all kinds of things. And so we envision this being, having a social media element to it without the augmented reality of social media. Next slide, please. Oh, do this again. Sorry. Rob, you had the luxury of telling somebody next slide. I want to do it too. So this is, you can go on there and create a profile. And with that profile, once you log in and create a profile, there's some opportunities to connect with groups that have shared interests that you may have. So if you want to know more about reentry, you can start a reentry group, or you can go into a reentry group and you can exchange information, knowledge, resources there. Yeah, so that's just an overview of our HEP. Happy to talk a little bit more about it and its development. We have some aspirations for it to become a mobile app at some point, because I know that that's where most people access a lot of information more readily. And maybe I need to talk to you, Molly, because you all got an app built for just this event, and I've been like struggling, like how can I get this platform on an app, and you all just tossed one up like that. So. Yeah, so again, I encourage folks to use this. Right now, there's around 400 resources on there. As the field continues to grow, you can see there being thousands. And again, this could be a hub not just for us, but for the folks in the mainstream to kind of understand and get a glimpse of this field. I think it's a really important resource, not just for practitioners, but for folks like funders who might be interested in investing in this field. They kind of want to know, but they don't know who to go to. Here's a place where you can find out information, as well as policymakers and other folks. So. Again, this is just a resource to continue to push the idea and the priority to be in community with each other. So, yeah, stay tuned. We're going to continue to build it out.
Thanks, Fed. Ellen?
Is that? No? Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Ellen Cushing. I am a principal TA consultant with the American Institutes for Research, and I am so excited to be talking about a new initiative that we are leading with partnership with Ascendium, as well as Jobs for the Future and the Alliance. So at the highest level, the initiative, which we're calling the Identifying and Scaling HEP Programmatic TA Resources, really rolls off the tongue. We lovingly refer to it as the initiative or the cohort initiative. And what we're doing over this 2.5-year effort is working with a cohort of grantees to refine and scale resources that they have developed for their HEP programs. And what we are doing is trying to identify those resources for this initial cohort that are really addressing the most pressing needs for HEP programs to design and implement high-quality programs. And so as part of this effort, in addition to the cohorts moving through the refinement and scaling of their tools, we're also going to be disseminating and sharing learnings from the cohort and ultimately the final resources that are developed through this effort. So we are just about to announce who, not today, sorry, who is going to be part of this cohort. But what I thought would be helpful is to share a little bit about how we've designed it and the efforts that have gone into getting to this point. And I will get to preview some of the resources that we're hoping to be part of the cohort in the next, well, they'll find out probably in the next week or so. So just some background on how we developed and designed the initiative. First, we really wanted to make sure that we were intentional about what we were trying to do with this work. And so we spent a good amount of time working with Molly and others in the field to really understand what is the purpose, what is the high leverage need of the field that this initiative could support. And broadly, I feel like I'm speaking to experts here, so I don't need to be teaching anything up here, but where we landed is really that there's been this reinvestment in HEP in the field, but there has not been as much support around technical assistance and really helping the field support the implementation and design of their HEP programs. And what this has resulted in over the last many years is programs working often in isolation from each other to design resources that are really critical for their programs, but not having a lot of opportunities to collaborate, co-construct, validate, the resources that they've been building. And so what we see with this initiative is really an opportunity for us to build on the strengths of the field and create that space for that refinement, co-collaboration, co-construction of tools and resources that are usable and by the broader field. So AIR, we're coming in with this because we're designing the process, the system that this initiative will follow. And we're really leveraging our experience building systems levels support and the systems level technical assistance that we've been doing across education, post-secondary, and workforce into this initiative. And it is really grounded in AIR's mission to generate and use rigorous evidence. And we really see ourselves as being a bridge and facilitating that intersection between research and technical assistance. And that's everything from how are we using best practices in the field related to HEP programming, but also in the technical assistance methods and really making sure that we are bringing in evidence-based technical assistance processes, materials that can help facilitate the use of these tools and resources. The third prong of the work that we've been doing in the design of this is really making sure that we are intentionally and regularly engaging the HEP field to help design the initiative. So we know that there is a wealth of expertise in the room here and in the field more broadly. And so we really wanted to make sure that we are harnessing that work to guide and inform all of the key decisions about how this initiative is implemented and designed. And so some of the efforts that we've done to date to make sure that there is that HEP expertise and that HEP voice in the design of this is first, we have advisory groups that we've convened over the last almost a year now, 11 months, that we've been doing this initial development work to help us think through what are key frameworks that we should be thinking about, what are key resources we should be looking for in the field. As part of this effort, we wanted to make sure that we're bringing in the evidence base early to help inform that. So we conducted a literature review to see what are some of the best practices out there related to HEP programming and technical assistance and engaging in that. And so our advisory groups helped us look at the findings from the literature review, validate those findings, but also highlight what are some of the nuances that, we're looking at post-secondary education, we're looking at HEP research. So what are some of the things that maybe translate, that don't translate? So they really were helping us interpret and understand what the literature was, as well as helping us think about how we want to design focus group protocols and really making sure that we are bringing the voice of the HEP field into identifying what are those needs. I mentioned we're trying to identify resources that are supporting those most pressing needs. And so what are the focus groups are really intended to tell us what are those things? What kinds of resources, if you had in your hands today, would be the most valuable to you? So the advisory groups helped us think through how do we solicit that information, how do we interpret that information, and then finally we convened an external reviewer group to help us look at the applications that we received from HEP programs around their resources. They went through some may say too long, a calibration process to look at those resources, and then they were the ones that were making recommendations about which resources would be selected, or not selected, but invited into an interview process that we then, so that was the role of the external advisory group. So really throughout this process, we have been leaning on those experts to make sure that any key initiative decisions that we're making were really informed by the field. So what does it look like to be part of the cohort? So this, as I mentioned, we're getting so close to being able to share who will be part of the cohort. But the real kickoff for this work will be in January of 2025. And as part of this cohort, grantees will have engage in 3 activities over the 2 years of engagement. The first is they'll be part of a community of practice that allows grantees to convene both virtually and in person, and really use that space to calibrate as a group around what are some best practices around technical assistance, use that space to collectively problem solve within the specific resources that these programs are refining and scaling, using that as peer-to-peer consultation and getting feedback on those resources, and then also to solicit input. So we know that HEP program can vary. The context and the nuances of HEP programs matter, and so how can we use the community of practice to really understand those nuances, understand those contexts, so that as the grantees are refining their resources, they're able to consider those different nuances and contexts in that refinement and scaling. The second piece that we are offering through this is intensive coaching support. So we have for each grantee a team of supports that will be matched to each grantee. And it's specific to their needs. So it's specific to the resource that they're developing, as well as information that will glean from a needs assessment that really says, okay, where do you want to use your coaching supports? Where do you see your strengths, and where do you see some areas that you would like more support in? So we have the coaching team is comprised of at least 4 types of roles. The first are those with HEP expertise, those both with programmatic expertise, implementing HEP programs, as well as those who have been part of HEP programs, either have graduated or have experience participating in a HEP program. We also have a team member who would have expertise around TA methods, so they have a deep understanding of adult learning theory, of organizational change. They really can help bring that technical assistance methods piece into the refinement of the resources. We have someone who's going to call, we're still working on the name, but we're calling it right now the Rapid Response Support. And they're really intended to be sort of a supportive team member who can do the literature reviews, they can do policy scans, they can do the data analysis, they can really help provide the information that the grantee teams are going to need in order to refine their resource. And then the 4th person is really just accessing the breadth of support services that AIR has and offers. So we have technology solutions teams, we have designers, we have editors. So just as the resources are being refined and scaled, making sure that we can tap into those other resources that AIR has to offer. And then the third bucket here is really very much aligned to our mission around generating and using evidence. So we'll be supporting case summaries for each of the grantees to do two things. The first is to begin to build an evidence base around these tools and the effectiveness of those tools and the impact that they help facilitate and support. And the second is more formative. So how can we solicit feedback from those who have been receivers of those tools so that as these teams are refining and scaling their resources, they have that formative feedback that they can incorporate into that refinement process. So those are sort of the three activities that our grantees will engage in. And this green bar at the bottom is really just our stated commitment to make sure that we don't share that we're doing this, and then in 2 years, roll out a bunch of resources that you're like, cool, great, would have been helpful to know that these were coming. So we really want to make sure that we are regularly communicating what we're doing within this community of practice, or not just the community of practice, this initiative, what we're learning, what are some of the resources that we can share out. So I mentioned that rapid response team helping to do like literature reviews. So putting those out there so that you can all leverage them as you need as well. So really just making sure that we are communicating early and often about what's happening with this resource and putting out products as they are available. So I mentioned we can't share the grantees, but we did get permission to share summaries of the types of resources that we are hoping will be part of this initiative. So what you see here on my left-hand side, I think yours as well, where we have systems alignment, student preparation program, those are kind of the buckets that we've organized our resources around. And these are really, it came from the advisory group, these buckets around what are some of the key characteristics that HEP programs need to be thinking about in order to be high quality programs. And so we have a suite of resources that sort of span this framework. And so the first, around systems alignment, we are hoping to include resources that include a toolkit around how you assess technology needs and implement education technology in prisons, a data collection inventory tool to really help align student data and management systems between post-secondary institutions and departments of correction, and also a HEP program evaluation and improvement guide, including those data collection instruments and tools that would go into doing HEP program evaluation. Oop. All right. For the student preparation dimension, we have two resources. The first is around just help, and actually we heard a lot about this in the first panel, resources to help students really understand what their post-secondary educational opportunities are, including information around financial aid and just their post-secondary pathway. And the second is a student success survey, so really understanding what do your students need when they're engaging in post-secondary education and helping the program leaders understand what to do with that data. So not just how do you collect it, but actually how do you put that into action. For program implementation, we're including some, hoping to include some guidance and a guidance just around how do you do HEP, almost like a robust 101 of HEP implementation, soup to nuts resource. Another resource around helping to prepare educators for teaching in carceral settings. And then the third resource around, or toolkit around how to use restorative justice practices, both for teaching and learning. And then the last here, around transfer, completion, and workforce transitions. A resource around an employer toolkit around fair chance hiring, a roadmap resource to help support reentry and successful completion on the Free World campus, and then the third one, a reentry simulation toolkit to really help understand what are the challenges that HEP students face post-release. So these are the resources that we're hoping to be part of this cohort. We are hoping that you all are interested and want to stay connected to this work. So you already heard about RCHEP. That will be one key vehicle that we'll be using to help share our resources and make sure that, so sign up if you're not already, and please follow along there. And then we're also building out a site on our AIR website that will be an anchor for some of the communication as well. Right now, the page is still reflective of the RFP process, but we're working to build that out to be more of the project, the live project site.